Live from Jack London Square, this is the 10 o'clock news. The Bay Area's most complete nighttime television report with the award-winning Channel 2 news team and late satellite coverage from around the world.
Good evening, I'm Dennis Richmond.
And I'm Barbara Simpson.
The storm everyone said was coming came a bit later than expected today, but when it hit, it exploded with a vengeance that was expected. Heavy winds, heavy rains, and lots of floods. But so far, the worst storm-related accident has taken place to the north, near Reading. Late today, a mudslide crashed down on a country road where a crew was cleaning up from some runoff. 2 people were buried in the mud. One of them, the operator of a skip loader clearing away mud, was suffocated by the slide and killed. Another man, the driver of a second vehicle in the crew, is still fighting for his life tonight in critical condition. The crew came from a county prison camp, and tonight that road is still blocked and awash with mud. Tomorrow, state geologists will determine if there is a danger of further mudslides along that road. There were several other minor injuries from that accident, none of them serious so.
Here in the Bay Area tonight, the continuing rain is turning dream homes in the Oakland Hills into nightmares. On a hillside off of Armour Drive, firemen tonight warned residents that 2 houses already loosened by earlier rains are on the verge of falling down the hill. The soil conditions are so bad that any effort to shore up the homes has been declared impossible. Those houses have been evacuated and they are continuing to move. And tonight, some of the people who live below have also left their homes. If either or both of the homes on the hill give way, more houses will be affected and they could also be swept down the hill. And across the bay in San Francisco, the high winds and rain knocked down trees and power lines and generally made life miserable. John Fowler reports.
High winds did the most damage, uprooting this huge tree, crashing it into a house in the Upper Market area. Luckily, no one was home. Neighbors were evacuated because of the threat from another storm-weakened tree. Commuters battled to get to their homes this afternoon. Small cars were advised not to travel the Golden Gate Bridge.
Driving was made hazardous by the slick roadway and by buffeting winds gusting in excess of 55 miles per hour.
Wind-driven waves rolled through the Golden Gate, smashing into the seawall near Fort Point. The roadway opened a gaping hole as the subsurface vanished into the bay. High-voltage power lines snapped in the teeth of the gale. PG&E crews were so busy, firefighters had to guard sizzling wires until repair crews could show up.
Farther to the east, that's without power. Is that
yes, from Dewey Boulevard. It probably is. These are 12,000 kV lines.
Police closed a portion of the Great Highway not only because of blowing sand, but also because the roadbed is being weakened by torrential runoff. The storm hits land here first, and the heavy surface taking its toll on the sandy shore, erosion making the beach area very unsafe tonight. John Fowler, KTVU, Channel 2 News.
Earlier today, sections of the north coast from Healdsburg to Point Arena were hit by the storm as it came roaring through. Ed Leslie toured that battered coastline today. He has this late report.
Downtown Healdsburg was flooded for the first time since 1955. Although most businesses stayed open, you had to climb over sandbags to get in. Healdsburgers took it all in stride. The flooding had nothing to do with the surly Russian River nearby. It was just a matter of too much water all at the same time for the storm drains. Elsewhere, there were power outages and phone outages in Bodega and Sebastopol. Too many roads were closed to mention them all here. However, most of those roads have since been reopened. And the Red Cross has readied an evacuation center tonight in Guerneville for use if necessary. The greatest damage wreaked, however, was in Point Arena, where 2 restaurants and a fishing pier were wrecked by a combination of heavy rain, high winds, and crushing waves. Several patrons had to scramble to safety as the Arena Cove Cafe itself became seafood. Only minor injuries incurred. On the Mendocino coast, Ed Leslie, KTVU Channel 2 News.
Well, in the Bay Area, one of the counties hit hardest by the storm both this morning and this evening has been Marin County. Early on, there was a lot of flooding. Later on, that flooding continues, and there's also a shortage of drinking water in some places tonight. We have 2 reports on Marin County's long day, beginning with Randy Shandeville.
The streets of some Marin County neighborhoods looked more like canals tonight. There was water everywhere, in yards, in houses, and falling from the sky. But ironically, there was not much water to drink. The power outages, which left many people in the dark, left Marin Municipal Water District no way to pump water to its storage tanks.
At the moment, we are rapidly getting into trouble if we don't get power back within the next 2 hours, possibly.
Okay, now when you say you get into trouble, what does that mean? What happens if you run out of water? What do you do?
It means we'll have to declare that we are in an emergency situation and ask people to drastically curtail their use of water.
PG&E crews are trying to restore power to the water district to avoid that emergency, but as of 9 tonight, they had not. Red Cross workers have opened evacuation centers in Novato, Corte Madera, and San Rafael. This woman was flooded out of her San Rafael home.
Everything's flooded except for part of my bedroom, and it's about a foot deep, and then it went down to about 4 inches, I guess, about 4 inches.
We've received calls from people over the telephone. We've received people coming through the door. We've had about 40 to 50 people in here since 12 o'clock this afternoon.
Things were especially difficult in the Santa Venetia area of San Rafael tonight. Cars that weren't flooded wouldn't start, and homes that weren't yet flooded were on the verge of it. High tides created this mess. These men were sandbagging to prevent a worse mess tomorrow.
Get about 6 inches more water tomorrow. That's without the rain.
As difficult as life is in Marin tonight, in some ways it was more difficult earlier today. Rita Williams has that story.
Commute traffic moved easily across the Golden Gate Bridge. It was just after daybreak and there was still no sign of the storm, and predictions of heavy rains and high winds equaling or surpassing last January's fierce storm were revised downward. But the soil was already saturated, and it was hard to imagine persistent trouble spots in Marin County being able to take much more water. Before 9 o'clock this morning, the Mill Valley ramps to Highway 101 were underwater and closed to all but the very adventurous. And Seminary Drive proved to be the Waterloo for this car. Its driver had to wait out for help. Traffic was backed up all along 101 as the low spots turned into reservoirs and creeks overflowed their banks. All this made for slow going to San Francisco from Marin County. Scenes at some businesses were reminiscent of a year ago. But what was probably the worst flooding in a residential area was here in the Santa Venetia section of San Rafael. The culprit was Los Galinas Creek. After last year's storm, the county built a levee and put in another pump station here, but even that wasn't enough to stop the swollen creek today at high tide as the water leaked through the levee.
According to our engineers who have been here for many years, this is the worst we have ever seen the tide in this location. It's due to a combination of factors that not only abnormally high tide, but also the surge from the storm that just rolled in last night.
During that interview, Flynn said he thought high tide had been reached. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and the worst was yet to come. Residents worked quickly to try to protect their homes.
Some seeped over, but we're still working at it, and hopefully it doesn't keep raising like it has.
What this area didn't need is more rain, but by mid-morning, that's just what it got. So homeowners and public works crews worked together to try to reinforce the levee. But it was already too late for the homes on Estancia Way. They got the brunt of the water, and it caught residents by surprise.
Never had water in our driveway like this since we've been here, and that's been 25 years.
In fact, as Pilicelli watched the water rising in his garage, he said before today it had never even gone up over the curb. It was all too much for most of his neighbors.
It's about 6 inches deep in water.
Have you ever had it like this before?
Never seen it like this before. Everything's just floating around.
But while most people were leaving the area, at least one person was trying to get to his house. Jeff Krupnick was at work when he heard about the flood and waded in to survey the damage. By mid-afternoon, the tides were receding, but that was little consolation for the people here, since even higher tides are predicted for tomorrow. In San Rafael, Rita Williams, KTVU, Channel 2 News.
Further up the coast in Stinson Beach, 2 homes were damaged this morning by rough high tides. There were also reports of flooding in Novato, but so far emergency shelters have not been visited by any more than a handful of families. To the south, there were also reports of flooding in South San Jose and of heavy surf along the Santa Cruz shoreline. And it's not over yet. A little later in the broadcast, Pat McCormick will tell us about the weather outlook for the next storm heading our way. Still to come tonight, the fight against surging waters continues, of course. We'll have the story of the struggle in the Delta against flooding, a struggle that will intensify again tomorrow.
They told me it'd be just... Also tonight, the one-time residents of San Jose's tent city find themselves in a different type of predicament tonight. We'll have their story and much more news when Dennis and I come back.
For retirement.
It pays to lean on the rock.
For money market savings and checking.
For insurance.
It pays to lean on the rock.
For stocks.
Municipal bonds.
Precious metals. For all your financial services, it pays to lean on the rock. Gibraltar Savings. GFC Securities. GFC Insurance.
Gibraltar.
You're looking at the unexpected granola bar.
Unexpectedly moist. Not crumbling. Unexpectedly chewy.
Chewy granola bars from Quaker. Unexpected.
A granola bar with chocolate chips.
Unexpectedly moist and chewy.
You can certainly see the difference in a Quaker Chewy granola bar, but it's a lot more fun to taste it.
Unexpectedly moist and chewy.
Quaker Chewy granola bars.
It's delicious.
In 1879, John Muir discovered Alaska's Glacier Bay in a 14-foot canoe. You can discover it this summer in the pampered elegance of an ocean liner. Holland America West Tours, ocean liners to Alaska.
Tony, got my mother's order!
Years ago, when the Progresso truck came by, it was cause for celebration. Soon, the neighborhood would be filled with the aroma of great home cooking. Today, you can capture that homemade goodness with Progresso home-style soups, a delicious minestrone, a thick lentil soup, and a whole family of hearty soups that taste like you made them from scratch. So for soups with that real homemade flavor, make it Progresso or make it yourself.
Okay, now, Louis, take this to your mother and you tell her...
I know. She couldn't make it better herself.